seconds before it starts streaming to YouTube or.
That should be going now.
We've had a few. Do you have? Yeah. Been on Laurel, do what time?
Okay, folks.
Now we're talking about the
Yeah,
weather here.
it is 6:33 in the Old Farm District Neighborhood Association monthly board meeting.
That should be going
With a 30-second delay. And, so we had our general meeting 2 months ago. We've been meeting, we met privately last week. We have some minor board business that we're going to be addressing today. Our agenda is going to be relatively straightforward. We have some guests. Jim is joining us from Southeast Bend Neighborhood Association. He's always always here. We have another Jim who's just here. I myself am James, but I go by James. I don't go by Jim. And then we have Ray Meow, who's on our library board, and he's requested a few minutes of public comment period. So Ray, why don't we go with you at the beginning of the, or actually, we pause this. Introductions just for the YouTube verse. I'm James DeRofi. I'm the current board chair.
I'm Ross Tinty. I'm NLA rep for Old Farm. Brian Kennedy.
Jen Sawyer, Community Outreach.
Helen Johnson, Levy's chair.
And on that note, we have 2 openings on our board that we will be looking to fill whenever possible. That said, now let's go to the public comment period. And local resident Ray Mao, who's part of the library board and rural fire district 2.
And rural fire district number 2. Yeah, 2 boards for the price of 1.
So what do you got for us for your public comments?
I was going to come and talk to you about why I'm running for re-election. The reason, well, let me start off by saying 25 years ago, I was one of the founders of our library system. 1998. I served on the board ever since. And what we did was we essentially took a library system that was, well, every one of our libraries were closed. And we took it from that to the libraries that we have today. Built 3 new libraries, remodeled 2 of them, and opened East Bend Library. And East Bend Library, if you don't know it, is the most used library per square foot in our entire system. Twice the usage of downtown Bend. It's fantastic, small but mighty. And we did all of this by building community libraries. The reason I'm running now is we have $195 million of taxpayers' money to expand the library system. I think the 100,000 square foot central library that's been proposed is the wrong way to go. For comparison, 100,000 square foot library, that's 12 East Bend libraries, more than 12 East Bend libraries. It's more than 5 Barnes and Nobles. And it's the same size as Home Depot. And I don't think people voted for a Home Depot library. We built a system with community libraries strategically placed within each community. We've done that for 22 years without raising taxes. 195. This current library, proposed one, is going to be on 27th Street. That's not a, that's our right place for it. But it's the size of the library that I question. It's way too big. What I proposed was we make it smaller, maybe even the size of downtown. With the money left over, we can build another community library somewhere else in Bend, where it's really needed. We'll still have money left over after that. What can you do with that? You can either build another small library somewhere, or you can take the money and prepay the interest on the bond, which will unfortunately reduce everybody's property tax. Maybe they want to do that, maybe not. But we'll have all those options of what to do. Once we downsize the central library, we have a slew of options. What I just proposed is just one option. All the plans and all the community surveys we've done were before the pandemic. Technology and the pandemic have changed a lot of things in our lives. How we work, how we get information, and how we use the library. We should take that into account now. What I'm saying is, let's take a pause. We have 20 years to build a central library. Let's pause. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. Go back to the community now that they know the size and the cost and the location of the central library that's proposed. Ask them what they really want. All these options are out there. Let's discuss the options. Let's go back to the community. It's the people's money. It's not the library. We need to use their money for what is the best interest of all of our community. That's all we're asking for. Just let's take a look. Let's go back to the people and see what they really want to have. What's the rush? We have 20 years.
So on that note, if people here have questions, we can. I don't know if anybody's online right now. So the neighborhood association, Old Farm Neighborhood Association does not endorse any candidates. So Ray has to speak today. He is on the current board. He's presenting his ideas. We have nobody online that has questions. If there's anybody in this table, we're all the citizens at this point. If they have a specific question, I have no problem doing a minute or two or three for conversation to ask questions.
Yeah, I have a question. If you're looking at the one that's planned on 27.
Yeah.
It is huge. Hey, are you saying that that design is not locked in? That's simply a prototype or an ideal?
It's a proposed. The way the contracts are written for the architects, the construction, everything, the library board can suspend them. They can terminate them. They can do anything we want with them for any reason whatsoever at any time they want. So we don't have to build it. We own the property. We haven't done anything on it yet. Now's the time to stop and say, whoa, before we start spending 138 million, let's really see what's the best way to meet the needs of the community. Then we can decide what size it should be. And then we can decide how much.
That doesn't seem very inviting to me. It doesn't look like a cozy place to go and be. It's huge.
I looked at the plan and I was the only one on the board that said, this thing looked like it belongs to Ben. Basically, it's 3-story steel plates with glass in between. I looked at it and I thought, this looks like a border wall. I mean, 3 stories high. It just doesn't fit. When we did the downtown Ben Library, we brought the architects in and we said, okay, we want a building that really looks like Central Oregon. And they went back for a couple of months, came back to us and said, okay, here's what we see at Central Oregon. We see the mountains, we see the river, and we see the forest. That's what you see. That's what we feel it should look like. We said, yes, go with that design. A couple of months later, they came back and said, okay, here's some options. I mean, they gave us a whole slew of options to look at for the facade, how it looked, what's inside, all this stuff. Then we said, okay, let's go get a community input on every single facet of this before we move forward. And people came back and said, oh yeah, we like this idea of having stone. But we don't want to build a whole building made out of stone because you gotta have windows or something. We went through the whole community process. It's called a charrette process. We didn't do that with this building. They came out and said, this is what we think you ought to have. This looks good. Wait a minute. Where's the wood? Where's the mountain? Where's the forest? Where's the water in this? It looks like a great modern building. And it doesn't look like Central Oregon. The downtown library looks nice. You'll notice that downtown, the window looks to the east because the sun is strongest in the west. And we're looking out onto what was supposed to be Heritage Square. You have school administration and Boys and Girls Club on one side, Troy Field on the other side, City Hall on this side, and we were going to anchor downtown. We did it for 2 reasons. One, it anchors downtown. We didn't want everything being focused into the old mill and downtown, going to depression. This was the anchor. This looks good. Massive building. Put it there. And 2 is it looks like that.
So to just clarify, So you're not opposed to the library. You're all for the You're all for the library.
I'm all for a central library.
You're all for this, for a central library.
Absolutely.
You just want to pause this concept.
I want to pause and see let's go back to the people. If this is post-pandemic, how people use the library is dramatically changed. I think it was like about 10 years ago, they first came out with electronic books. And the big discussion on the board was electronic books or physical books. Everybody's going like, we gotta have books, we gotta have books, that's what a library is, books. And I said, wait a minute, it's not either or. This technology is not going to go away, it's just going to get advanced, get better and better. We should put a budget for electronic books and for physical books, we should have both. How we mix those is going to be determined by not us, but by the public and by the publishers.
Any other questions for Ray? Jim?
Yeah, sounds like maybe the board isn't all together on what avenue is best to proceed. Where there's half page ads in the bulletin promoting the concept that's being presented.
Right.
And I think that people that I've talked to have the impression that it's all sort of a done deal. It's going to happen.
That's what certain people have tried to convince the public. It's a done deal. Here's the drawings, you voted for this, you like this, you already approved this. Just the number of letters to the editor in the bulletin, it's avalanche. They wrote this editorial, said we've been avalanched by letters on just the library, to the point where it's swapped out everybody else's. There's so much concern within the community about the size of this, the way it looks. I'm saying we don't want to move ahead with $138 million. We want to know, we should know what is going on in this community that's created so much of concern. We've never, in my 25 years on the library board, I have never seen so many people actually write letters to the board and actually take their time to show up at our meeting. I mean, if you show up at a board meeting, you are concerned, and they're coming there both pro and con.
We can relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, when they show up, it's like, whoa, something's wrong. You better find out what's wrong before you forge ahead. This is not like we're going to build, a billboard or something. Once we build a library, we can't move it. We can't downsize it. We can't make it bigger. But this is $138 million and rising.
Any other questions, right?
You said that you're not opposed to the siting on 27th.
27th is not a bad location, but not such a big facility. The amount of traffic is going to flow in there, the way it looks. And just because, 12 East Bend libraries in one site does not make sense.
And so you don't have an issue with the location per se.
The location per se is not bad. If it's
Do you favor a different location?
I don't know. Well, the size of the lot determines the location. There's only so much property of a certain size in there.
Yeah.
And the size of the lot is determined by the size of the building. So once we make it smaller, more moderate, we got a whole bunch of choices of where we want to go. Now, Stevens Branch, that may be a really good location. I mean, it's going to grow. There's a whole bunch of houses going out.
There's thousands of homes going in there for the.
So if
It would make
your
a nice,
vision to
27th
downsize were seen, if your vision of having the library downsized were to come the actual plan, would you pursue moving to a different size lot in a different area?
I'd love to see first, what does the public say? There's always a chance the majority of people are going to say, we want 100,000 square foot library. In which case, that's what we do.
My question is really specifically to the location, not the design.
The location, that location is is okay.
That's not a ringing endorsement.
That's not a ringing endorsement.
Okay. All
There
right.
are things about it that I don't like, mainly 27.
What
It's-
don't you like?
It's gonna have a lot more traffic. All
Okay.
right, it's got semis going down there. I cannot see some kid from the west side of 27 trying to cross the street to go to the library.
Well, hopefully all the upgrades to 27th Street will make it a safe crossing.
Yeah.
Because there's gonna be an elementary school there
Right.
and a junior high, so.
And the speed limit has to
That's
drop.
all
by.
for the city.
Roundabouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should look to we have to look to what is gonna be in the next 5 years.
If the city does everything it's supposed to do, if we get transportation down there, the sign's fine. It just cannot be that big. It's the size, that's the question, not the location.
Are you the sole voice on the board?
No,
With this
now we
concern.
have two of us.
Hmm.
So interesting what happened. Good question. For the longest time, it was 4-1, me being the one. The South County, from Southwest Bend all the way down to Lapine is one library. They voted against the bond to begin with. Their representative on the board said, we're gonna build this 100,000 square foot library. She lost her seat in the election to the woman who said, we want community libraries. They voiced their opinion. Redmond voted against the bond. Our zone, our area. down
And Redmond's getting a new library as we speak, correct?
Redmond's getting their old library torn down and something else that's made out of glass and steel also, which they have a lot of controversy up there too.
But that's already in the works, correct?
That by our contract can stop at any time. We've torn down their old building. But if the board can, if we have a majority of the board, we can come back to the architect. And say, same architect for these two. I mean, they look strangely similar. We can say, build something that looks like downtown, that fits in. And if they come back and say, well, it's gonna look like this, and it looks like the old Dressy Hill School. Okay. We build it. We can make it a little bit larger. Make it so it has more actual footprint for the services they need because they're growing. We can do that.
So Ray, I'm gonna cut you off at this point because you've had plenty of public commentary. If anyone else has any questions, Jim, do you have another question? You gotta go quick.
Okay, I was wondering, what happens to the old downtown library if this new 100,000 square foot library, would you close it or
Oh, no,
does
no,
it
no.
become a branch or?
No, it's our main library.
Okay, but you're building a new library, which I suppose will become your now central main library.
Good question. The
So I'm a
central
little
library-
confused as to
Yeah.
what's going on here.
That's another confusing point for the public. Downtown is our main library. Will always remain as the main library. The anchors down. This library, you'll notice, it's not being called the Central Library anymore. It's being called the Stevens Ranch Library. Legally, in the bond, we have to build a central library. And the only thing that distinguishes a central library from all of our other libraries, we all have the same services, is a central processing facility. We put it there. Doesn't have to be 100,000 square feet to do that. Central process. I've seen this thing, it's smaller than this room. We put it in there. Now we call it the Stevens Ranch Central Library. That means we've fulfilled everything, our legal obligations to the bond. We have to build a central library because we have it in there. It's not so much that we have to do it for the public who voted for it. We have to do it for the people who bought our bond. If we don't build a central library, something that we call a central library, our bondholders can sue it. I'm not going to go to court. You know, Goldman Sachs.
Jim, does that answer your question?
Yeah, but it kind of provokes one more. So what size of Stevens Ranch Library can you kind of get away with and still be called central to satisfy your bond?
As long as we put in the processing facility,
That's the only
it's the
thing.
central library.
The only thing.
It's going to have all the children's service, the adult services, the meeting rooms, book stacks, everything else, plus the processing. That's the only thing we don't have right now, central processing.
What is it exactly your process?
Returns.
Oh, returns.
All the books and videos and everything that goes from library to location.
You all process it at one location.
That's what the facility,
okay.
or that,
It's a machine that's, well, it's bigger than this table. All right. It's a conveyor belt. It's got radio frequency tags inside all the books now. This is just it's like a mini Amazon. Books come down the conveyor belt. The reader reads it and shoots it into one of the crates. Another crate. And that's what it does. It sorts it. By the
So all books,
RFID
wherever they're returned, get shipped here for processing, and then they go out to wherever they go.
It's also a crazy idea. If you think about it.
it's kind of like that old FedEx college graduate who failed the class test.
How fast can you ship it?
So Ray, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
And
Very nice
for,
meeting you, Ray.
for the records, during our general meeting, we had Todd Duckelberg speak on behalf of the Stevens Ranch Central Library. So all of that is available online for anybody to watch. If you have any questions, please submit them to the library board. We can help you get those questions to them, but we do not know the answers here at the Old Farm. So we are not the people to address with questions or concerns. That being said, let's go to some regular meeting agendas. We have a couple things that we always do. One of them is a NART presentation from Jen Sawyer.
Yes, so NART stands for Neighborhood Association Roundtable, which I am, am I considered a rep or a liaison?
NART, Neighborhood Association Roundtable, is open to anybody in the public. So you just happen to be the person that likes to go and listen and be part of it. So
That's just what I do. We had a meeting, a really good meeting with Ariel Mendez on Friday. We met at OSU campus. And we discussed some of the top priority issues that we have been hearing from around Central Oregon. Some things that were discussed were preservation of trees, the city adjusting how the community interacts during the community input section and maybe changing that so there's a little bit more dialogue. We talked about habitat preservation. Jim was there. Jim from Southeast was there. I had to leave early. What were the other two things? What did you discuss?
Well, I know I brought up basically the appeal process, just to let him know that it's very daunting and it's not a level playing field. I also kind of proposed the idea that there needs to be some way of reviewing hearing officers' work on kind of an annualized basis to determine whether they're being fair to both sides or they're totally biased. He was kind of interested in that. That's the big issue for me because I'm the gas station appeal and all that.
Yeah, I felt like the meeting, even though I didn't get to stay for the entire time, I felt it was very positive, and that we were really listened to by Councilman Mendez. And look forward to more meetings to further discuss these ideas.
Yeah, there were 7 of us there in council Mendez. And Joette basically asked for everybody's impressions. I submitted a bunch and some others did too. And she's kind of put together a full page, kind of top level summary of just some of the issues that were discussed. Didn't go into a lot of detail on it, but
Yeah.
It's available from Joette.
Yeah, I did forward that to the board members
So
tonight.
I thought it was a very good meeting. I thought he was very interested in hearing from us. He seemed to be very concerned about, trying to do some changes, but he kind of said there are just so many changes, there's so many things going out there. It's very hard for, him to really concentrate on any one thing. He also said he was surprised at the number of committee assignments. When he signed up to go on the board or on the council, he figured just a few committee assignments, a lot more than that. And, of course, he does work at OSU Cascades. And so he's got to balance all of that. And it's, we ran into it at the gas station, because I don't think the council, one of the reasons I think the council denied it is they just didn't have the time to do it. And I also talked about, well, why do they have to do a de novo review, which is starting from scratch? Why not just do an appellate type review? Where they look at the logic that the hearing officer used and say, hey, that's right or that's wrong. So I planted that seed as well.
So, for history's sake, the Neighborhood Association Roundtable is just an informal gathering of the neighborhood associations. The actual formal city committee is the Neighborhood Leadership Alliance. And that is the voice that actually goes in front of city council and has city staff working with them. This is just my take on NART. The fact that NART has been very active in asking a lot of questions of city council recently, and city council has been responding, and so has the city manager. And they do not have to. The fact that NART is getting as much attention from the council and the city manager, I think says that they are listening to the voices of the neighborhood associations. Might not be the design that everybody thought it was going to be, but once again, I'm very impressed that NART is getting the attention that it is, because it literally is an unofficial gathering of people. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great.
Right.
I just, the true voice is the Neighborhood Leadership Alliance. And I say the true voice because that is where city staff is actually assigned to answer and address some of these questions.
Formally recognized.
Formally recognized city committee. So, and I just think that's a good thing to point out and to differentiate. Not that NART's bad. I went to your many meetings for years.
Yeah.
They definitely serve their purpose. I'm just very impressed at how much face time they are actually getting from city council at this point, which they did not get for years.
Yeah, we all made sure to extend our appreciation to this time that he took during the day to meet with us. And I felt like it sounded like he wanted to meet with us again and further discuss ideas. He kind of gave us little mini assignments in between time to get him some ideas and some facts around the state about how we think we should move forward with some of these ideas. So I'm looking forward to the next one. As long as I'm not drowning in detention, I'll be attending.
Good update. Anybody have any questions for Jen?
Yeah, I also mentioned, I guess I talked to him a couple minutes after everybody had left, and I said, if there's anything you need, please let us know.
Yeah.
We're happy to, try to supply the information to help you out here. So I just left that door open for him.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyone?
When is the next NART meeting?
The next NART meeting is the end of this month. It's usually the last Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. And I think we're going to try to do in person this time. We're going to meet at a park.
And there are many online available for people to watch.
Yeah.
Once again, that is not something that is required. It is just the people that go and attend going out of their way to make sure the conversations are public. So
Anybody can attend?
anyone can attend.
Yeah.
You don't even have to live in Bend. I mean, it's literally just a gathering of residents and ideas. And historically, it was to help the neighborhood associations communicate with each other because there was no avenue.
Yeah, so it's like we get together and discuss best practices, what's working for each neighborhood association, what needs improvement. It was tech stuff for a while. I think we've gotten over that part of it. And then we discussed our general meetings and what was successful for those and how to get more attendance and whatnot.
Are you looking at the 30th day after Memorial Day or the week before?
I think it's going to be on the 30th. When I receive the notification, I'll forward it to the board.
And for those watching the video later, how do they find out where the meeting is going to be and when?
I think I could probably post that on our social media channels. At the very least, I can post it on Nextdoor. Are there any rules regarding me
No,
posting it
I
on our
mean,
Facebook channel?
if you want to use the old farm site, that's fine. Once again, it's the Neighborhood Association Roundtable. It is just an informal gathering of people, of concerned residents.
Yeah.
It's open to anybody. It's Sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's online.
Mhm.
You know, the world's coming back to a different place than we were 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We're in a room right now.
Yeah, we're in a room right now.
Yeah, I think I think we're looking at going back to in-person, especially if the weather is nice. We used to meet at a park.
And before that, they literally met in city council chambers for
Mm.
years, for 10+ years. So the city has always been accommodating as far as providing locations. Who knows, maybe they could use the libraries.
Use the library.
We have used the East Library before.
All you've got to do is go online,
Yeah.
reserve the room.
I think everybody wants to get outside if it's not snowing.
So-
In May. So like,
We only had 5.5 months of snow.
yeah, right, right.
So I think after that NERT update, how about we have a Neighborhood Leadership Alliance update, Ross?
Things along those lines, there's been a fair amount of churn around the tree code, so committees being formed on that, as everybody in this room already knows. And so they are looking for a neighborhood association representative or an NLA,
It's an NLA rep, right?
somebody
Not an NA rep.
somebody to represent the NLA, in this committee. So that's sort of next up, and I know Karen's very interested in that, and she certainly,
I think Jim's going to reply.
Yeah, I'm planning to apply
Okay.
for it. Because
So-
I'm very interested in preserving our trees around here.
yeah.
Ross,
Yeah.
could you give the breakdown of what this committee that they're trying to form?
Committee is being formed to basically to represent the community and provide input on the tree ordinance for basically which trees and how many trees to save around Bend as it continues to be developed, particularly in the city limits.
So it's gonna be a ad hoc city committee, so it'll be official. It will be have to follow all rules, Freedom of Information Act, public meeting rule laws, things like that.
I expect so, yeah, but the committee is meeting privately, as I understand it. I don't know if that means they need to post a recording or what. I don't think so, but
Yeah, I do know that they want like 11 to 15 people on this
Yeah.
committee from a variety of different areas. You know, one NLA rep, some community leaders, not necessarily NA board members, but just from the community. And then, you know, affordable housing, you know, some developers and et cetera, et cetera. So I know they're.
We can post a link to their.
Yeah, it was a notice that came out by Pauline Hardy,
Mm.
you know, a few days ago. And apparently you want to apply to closes this Friday.
That's false.
Well.
So Jim, let's put
by
a
month
push
from
out
now,
on
they'll-
social
they'll
media.
have the committee in place. So,
Yeah, definitely put a push out on social media if it's
Yeah,
got a
that's-
week left.
yeah, now I don't know how the NLA is gonna do it, whether they're gonna ask for volunteers and then decide among themselves and forward a candidate to city council.
Mhm.
And that's the question I'll probably ask tomorrow.
Right.
You know, what's their process?
Yeah,
Or do they have a process?
and we meet tomorrow. The last time we met was obviously in early April. We meet again tomorrow to hopefully iron that out. Yeah, other stuff, there was some discussion around fire levy updates. And then there are more meetings tomorrow to address open questions and concerns. Something that was stated in the meeting last month about the fire levy is that what was presented, would if the fire levy does not pass, there would be no. Regardless, there would be no general fund impact was a note that I made. Was mentioned that there would be no general fund impact, but tomorrow's meetings should provide additional information. I know they're planning on addressing Mike Walker's questions and concerns, or at least several of them. He sent out an email earlier today as well. Trying to attend the one tomorrow.
And we have been, as far as Old Farm Neighborhood Association, we've tried to be very proactive about posting as many things about the fire levy, arguments for and against on the website as well as social media
Yeah, at oldfarmbend.com.
at oldfarmbend.com. Yes, there are lots and lots of questions and concerns about that.
Did you wanna, I'm on the fire board.
We haven't really, we set aside the whole fire levy conversation for the general meeting. If anybody on the board has any specific questions, I say we can ask Ray because he is on the rural fire. So we get a 2 for today. Um,
And one point I want to mention in the meeting with Ariel is that we asked about that. We asked some specific questions I didn't get a chance to talk about earlier. But apparently, they've been overspending the original, amount that they get through, their fire levy. And through the COVID, they've been using other people's money, like some COVID money and some other money to basically staff up. And that money is going to run out. And my understanding is this new fire levy is supposed to kind of continue that funding level on into the future. That's kind of the way I understood as he explained it. So it's not a thing that they're going to lay off a whole bunch of people if it doesn't pass, but they got a year to get it right. And we just felt that, it's just the right information was not being presented to the public. Because they should have said, okay, we're at funding level here. Mike has raised a lot of questions. Well, why do we need a levy if the funding level is good? That's kind of been his thesis. And it's because that funding is going to run out. It was only temporary funding, the COVID, and I guess some other. And I think you probably have a better feel for it than I do, but that's kind of the impression
Yeah,
I got from Ariel.
So Ariel said
Yeah.
they were using COVID money.
well, there's American Rescue Plan.
Yeah.
There was some
it's-
funding from that.
Right.
If you want to call that
I kinda
COVID money, you
call it
can call it
but
COVID money,
yeah.
but it's not.
American Rescue Plan.
Yeah.
We didn't. My understanding is the way fire department is funded, it's very unique. I don't think there's another fire district in the entire state, or even in the whole West Coast that does this. The fire department has its own budget. There's a base that's set. It's called the fire fund. The city residents pay their property tax. Everything here is property. Certain number of dollars per 1,000 of property tax is given by the city into the fire fund. The rural district pays property tax to the fire district. We put a certain amount of money into the fire fund. The amounts that each one puts in is set by law. We have a contract. Each entity will have to put in this basic amount. You can put in more, but you cannot put in less. Okay. And so what we've had is the fire department is the envy of every department in the city hates the fire department because they don't have to fight with anybody else for their money. They've got their own budget every year. They know exactly how much they're going to get. No, it's much better because we have two entities that say that this is how you shall spend the money. So the two of us get together. You realize the city has so many things on their plate. City council, we have one liaison of fire. We have 5 members of the fire board focused on nothing but fire. At this point, 2014, they asked for a levy, 20 cents. All of that money went into this fire fund. Population's gone up, calls have gone up, density has increased. In order to maintain that level of service, they're now asking for an increase. I mean, it's a lot. Very frankly, it's a heck of a lot. But all of that levy money goes directly into this fire. Doesn't go anywhere else. Cannot go anywhere else. What it's doing is the fire fund plus the 20-cent levy, plus money that the rural fire board and the city put in as a bridging fund. That money is, the bridging fund is going to go away. The levy is going to go away. 20 cents. To replace all of that money, we need the new levy. The basic amount is still there. But if we only use the basic amount that's there, we're not going to have the services. So this is to maintain the level. It's not to actually raise it up higher.
A
It's just to
question.
maintain the level.
What happens if the rural levy and the city levy are going different directions?
You mean if one fails and the other one fails? Personal opinion? We're done. The levy fails. Let's say the rural district defeats it, the city passes it. Rural fire district can look at the city and say, okay, you got to pay the whole thing. City doesn't have enough money to do that.
So
They have to
if
pick up.
the voters say in the city, yes, rural says no, do you have that choice though to say you're done if the voters voted for it?
And say rural, you're on your own.
Well,
No, you
that's
can't.
my question
You
is,
can't, it's by contract,
it's, yeah, because it's all one,
all
but
one,
we've got it split into two different elections. So,
because it's two different
right,
property taxes.
right. So is it, but if one passes and one fails, do they have the option of saying no to the voters who said yes?
No.
So then does that mean you force it on the people who voted no?
You can't force it on anybody who votes no.
So you end up with
a
the city having to carry the load for everyone then if the city voted yes?
everyone then, and that's not gonna happen.
How does that not happen? That's like my
Because the
question.
rural board can't say to the city council, now you have to pay for the district, for the rural area too.
So what happens? No levy at all?
No levy at all. I mean, this
Back
is,
to the voters later time.
Yeah, yeah.
You no levy in the rural areas or no levy?
Basically, if the
Everybody.
rural votes no, the whole thing goes
the whole
down.
city and.
So both of them gotta pass.
Is now, that's your opinion, is that?
No,
No,
that's it.
That's the rule,
They both have to pass because it's a dual election.
yeah, makes sense.
It's a property tax.
Yeah.
You can't
We know.
have one person, one, you can't have the city paying for the district and the district.
That's
can't
right.
pay. That's not legal.
Good, thank you.
This is really tough.
huh? That's unusual.
I mean, one way it's great because we have a set budget, set amount of money for the fire department. It's great. They know what they do with it. It's not enough because of the growth reason. The bad part is separate entities got to increase their property tax. A levy. 25 years. But if we don't pass it, we don't get that levy. The bridging fund goes away, the previous levy goes away, we're back to 2014 levels funding for
Well, we go back, we vote on it again.
2023.
Any other questions for our, since we're fortunate with the fire,
Yeah, he's a
huh?
very versatile person here.
Yeah.
Swing by anytime.
So
City council too?
that's on Thursdays, every seventh month, no, so.
You
Um,
gotta be crazy, well, I won't say.
Well, that's the impression I got from Ariel. It's just they're loaded, they're overloaded. The city council. You
They
know,
have-
and that's what he was really surprised, like I said.
You realize that 80% of the city budget is fixed.
Okay,
We'll go there.
so the fire levy also met during the general meeting, or not the fire levy, the fire department, and there's lots and lots of information on our website. Karen, do you have any land use updates? I know there's been a lot of development, early stage conversations that we've been putting into the website. Do you have any notifications for us?
Well, for people who drive to and from home on Ferguson, there are going to be some serious changes. Polish is putting in a 151 unit development on Magnolia Lane, which is close to another development that's going in close to 27. By the time these are all done, you're going to have about at least 400 units whose sole access will be Ferguson. And they've put a lot of cars on Ferguson. This is a time to start looking at mass transit, and it's not happening. So the traffic in that 27 and Ferguson area is going to be very hard in the next
Will
couple of years.
that Ferguson or the Polish development on the 151, is that not going to connect to the east-west arterial that's
Eventually.
eventually going to get out to 27?
Eventually.
Yes.
The southeast area plan, there's a road that's supposed to be extended that'll run along the south boundary of that.
Right.
And one of the questions at the public meeting was, well, at the time you build this development, are you also going to build that road?
Right.
And the answer was no. So that road is going to depend on the development of southeast area. But in the meantime, the
Is that,
access
is
will
that,
be Ferguson.
but that you're saying that's Polish's position not to,
Yeah,
but there-
Polish just said they're not going to build that road.
and is there, can that questioned in the process? It seems ill-advised to put that kind of a development without increased access.
I think it would have to do, so I was on the Southeast Area Plan finalized committee. A lot of that has to do with when certain lots get developed and triggered and brought into the city limits. So there is a possibility with this one that Karen's talking about. It is literally snaking in when everything else around it isn't being done first. And when the things that are being done around it is when the roads will become activated.
So will that road be always developed by whomever's developing each of those parcels? Or is it that road going to get built in toto at some point?
So as a master plan, essentially everything that's inside the southeast area plan is going to be done by the developers, and everything that goes to the southeast area plan is being done by the city and the county. Essentially, the city is doing, is responsible for the large, they have to get the infrastructure to the developments. The developments are responsible for the infrastructure that happens in the developments. So
Okay.
yes, it sounds like you're questioning is, how are they doing this without having to put in the road? And the reason is because they're attached to another development, And so they're using the infrastructure coming off of Ferguson. So yes, you're gonna see this.
Magnolia
Yeah.
is a poorly developed country road.
It is a
It's a
country.
country lane.
It's a country
That
residential.
literally is peeling off itself.
Yeah,
And so to put massive development and rely on that as the only route in and out is beyond absurd.
so that is not the long-term plan. It is
Right,
just
that was my
yeah.
question about whether it has to be that way. Because it really seems like that road should be in first and the development should be coming off of it.
Yeah, everything triggered, that's all, there's a thing of what triggers what.
Right.
And in this particular scenario, it sounds like the triggers are avoiding triggering. They're going out of their way to make sure.
And yeah, I'm into reality. The reality is the next 5 years, Ferguson is going to be very, very busy.
I think for the
Ferguson's
next
very busy right
15
now.
years, Ferguson, Pettigrew, or Ferguson, 27th Street, Knott Road are all gonna be very, very busy. Even with a 100,000 square foot library.
Can I point out something here with my fire hat on? We're so close to the forest. I mean, this area, people would think of it as not being in the wildland urban interface. The new definition of the wildland urban phase, which is the area that will burn, is anything that's flammable is in the wildland urban interface to the forest. We've learned that it's not the front of the fire that burns houses down, it's embers that can travel up miles. When the wildfire hits, and it eventually will, the embers will come into here. With all the infill that we're having in the road development, we are not looking at how people are going to get out.
So that might be something that somebody could write, the city planners and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe there should be, at least a temporary route out, but.
Permanent
So
route.
what stage of that? Is that just the initial?
They had the public meeting and they're submitting the application probably very soon if they haven't already.
So, but that still tags on to the other two developments before it, correct?
Yes, it does.
So
I
we're
think
probably
two
looking at
developments,
at least 3 years before the shovels start putting up the structures.
What's shovel?
Shovels.
Shovel, yes. About, I say 2 years, no more than 2 years. I mean, they're gearing up, getting ready to go.
But the other developments have to be built first.
Not clear to me. I don't know the answer.
I don't
Because I
think
think
so.
I think they're putting in the infrastructure to get to it,
Okay.
as in the sewer, the water, and the power are going off because that was a meeting we had a year ago.
Mhm.
There's a
No, come
development
on,
going
Ferguson
on
Court.
right on Ferguson. So that has to go in first, and then if he takes all those charges, he then gets to send some of his expenses to the next development, So I would say 2 years is optimistic for the developer. I'm just,
Well, if he's only got to run that sewer line down, then that means whatever they're gonna call the south side of Ferguson Court is what he would have to build,
they're gonna have to tie into that.
and that would be the.
And the Avion, I'm pretty sure, is working on water expansions for all the southeast area plan. Anything else?
No, Oh, the tree code, of course, but I think that's getting good publicity through.
I was gonna say, the city's got a committee going for it. Everybody sign up. Karen, we know you're going to,
Oh, yes.
and Jim.
Writing it now.
So on that, let's, Brian. if
Well, we
you
need to
mind,
just- We need to talk about the board positions.
I was gonna do that after we hear about your updates on the beautification projects and tell everybody how we're gonna be advertising for them.
Well, I don't know how we're gonna be advertising for it. That would be.
You're
Good
sitting,
job.
you're sitting next to her.
Yeah, Jen will be doing social media. We will have it on our website. We might be nearing winter. It's hard to say, but we're anticipating better weather. Certainly, we're not asking people to go out and pick up roadside debris in this. So we will be sending out a survey shortly, which will ask for people just to respond with their interest and willingness to help in our road cleanup programs, which we plan on doing monthly. So my hope is that we do that relatively soon so that we can get May cleanup in. And then proceed monthly from there, probably on Thursdays or Saturdays. That would be part of the survey we would do to see when most people would be available. Previously, we've done them on both days to try to accommodate. So obviously very late getting off the ground this year, but that's the way it is with the weather, the way it's
Well,
been.
there's no dust out now if you wanna get
There's
out.
no dust, but every piece of trash is sodden. There's nothing more fun than sodden trash when you're having to haul it. So we'll pass. Thank you.
Okay.
We did go out at Caldera today and picked up garbage around there, and it was
How much fun was that?
so much
So
fun.
much
You
fun.
mean, is that what the detention kids did?
Yeah, that's what the ASS kid did today. And we went out there, we pulled cheatgrass and picked garbage, and it was like off the ground. But
Fun
it was-
stuff.
Still did it.
Yeah.
So you hear that, folks? That's what your kids do in detention. They go out and they weed at Caldera High School.
Yes, they do.
Was over lunch hour or after school.
This was actually during, this is at 10 o'clock. We did advisory program.
So Brian, is that it for the beautification?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a little bit of board business that we have to address. Our bylaws require us to have a vice chair
Secretary.
and the secretary treasurer. So you're technically the treasurer. That got approved last month.
Oh, it did.
Yes,
I thought
you were here.
Okay, well.
You were here.
We
Maybe
might
it's
have
not in the
railroaded
bylaws.
you into that.
I'm not, I have been watching the money. So.
So, but we do not currently have a vice chair. We have two openings on the board. We are going to be advertising, going to be doing a full market blitz. We can have a 4-minute conversation on what should we do for board recruitment, publicly. Jen,
At the
some of this
easiest-
is gonna be you.
Yeah, the easiest thing would be a very nicely worded spiel for social media. On Facebook, I can boost it. I don't believe I can boost it on Nextdoor. But I can share it on multiple platforms. Maybe I'll go outside of my bubble and post on Reddit. Because I did create an account for there, but I think a properly worded spiel about what it takes to be a board member and the duties involved with being vice chair or any other position. And then boosting that post for about a week or so and see if we get any traffic on it. I
Does
think
that
would
sound
be a
good for the board or?
And then the signs.
That's what got me.
Well, I would just comment, since we have discussed that there's a steep and fairly long learning curve coming to the board, that we're not necessarily throwing vice chair out there as an opportunity to come out there and slide into, unless we had an extraordinary candidate who could
Yeah, I think it would
do
be,
that. I think that's a pretty big.
yeah, if you're like green to the situation, I mean, participating in our board meetings or going back in our board meetings and just kind of seeing what this is about would be a good thing.
So
to
that's some
do.
of the text we want. We're looking for extraordinary candidates and green peas.
And just regular
Hit
people.
the forerunning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think I would like to put that out in the next 2 weeks. So maybe if we have ideas, we can formulate.
I'm for approving funds,
Oh, yeah,
To
to
boost
print. And what
Yeah.
about the other idea of
sign the print.
creating signs to use on our E-frame boards for?
I'm okay with that.
I think that would be
Yeah.
great because not everybody is on social media.
And we can reuse that if we just have the big things. That we can always be board opening it. So in another year or two, if we needed to, we could throw those up again as well. I authorize, or I'm for it.
Yeah, second
Or-
that.
Okay, that's unanimous.
All right.
So any other board business that I'm forgetting about?
Any other treasury stuff?
Now, the rest of it was just about budget. And
So yeah,
proper
so just for the
allocation.
record, the city does provide our funding. Please, anybody who has open receipts, submit them to the city. Our budget ends on June 30th. Jennifer.
Don't look at me.
One last, on that note, do we want to authorize the spending for more IT? That Ross, what do we need and how much?
Yeah, it's a different speakerphone, a pair of them that work together so that we can, when we have this many people here, we can have two of them. And it's $480 for the pair of them.
I would move that we approve that expense.
I'm okay with it, Karen.
Yes.
Were you, you kids these days on your
I did.
cell phones.
I told Rob to start the grill.
Okay.
So parallel to that conversation, since we have our camera, is always a matter of stacking a certain number of boxes at the right angle to get in the right position. Should we have an accoutrement for the camera that might actually facilitate a little easier? Setup.
Well, we have a tripod already. I just don't know where it is and don't necessarily want to grab
Oh,
it.
it's in that one box.
It's in the storage. if
It's
you
in the
want it.
storage unit.
Yeah, it's in the storage. Yeah,
Yeah,
we found it. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. So we have it. That's something that we could use, although it's comical with a tiny camera on a giant tripod.
Yeah.
And so I just brought my own personal one and that seems to
So
fit
what-
into
so what
my
you're
bag
saying
a
is-
lot
what you're
better.
saying is I need to get the tripod out of the storage unit and bring it to the meetings.
Yes.
It's an interesting question. I don't think we can talk about it for
Do
next
we need
month,
any
but
additional cable?
cabling,
Because
no,
I see sometimes you're limited by the stretch of the cord.
no, I don't know how to get around that. I actually have an extension cord. I just didn't happen to use it.
Okay,
I
so
think we're good.
that should cover anything that we think we need. If the board can think about, our budget will be coming to an end in 2 months. I know we've talked about possibly getting some more giveaway swag, those placard cards,
Field, get the field.
field guides, excuse me. Those are successful. How many did we decide that we should get
So
again?
now it's about 40. Right?
40 each, 20
20.
each. Yeah, I think 20 each would be a good, last time we got 11 each of a certain sect and then 15 each of other ones, but they were a hot ticket item. at the General meeting and they
So why wouldn't we just do 40 of each then?
need to price that.
Well, I do need to, first of all, we need to get receipts in for what we have spent. And then we need to really hit numbers of what we want to spend to make sure we actually have it.
What are you trying to say here?
Okay.
What are you trying to say here?
So it
I
doesn't,
wasn't
it doesn't
looking
sound like the discount is any more if we buy 20 versus 40.
There might be, I mean, they were incredibly generous.
So if you can find out and then just shoot us all an email, we can approve that online.
Please.
And then the last thing, Jennifer, I'm tasking you is reaching out to see what possible hydro flask
Okay.
setup would cost. So we've got the logo, we've got the QR code. We would just need to submit that and get an estimate. And we need to make sure that is in the works probably in the next week or two, if we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Because we have to get the product paid for and funded before the June 30th. So
And
there-
obviously, if you join the board, you get a free hydro flask that says Old Farm Bend Neighborhood Association.
If that gets the board members, you get two.
Yeah, that'd be dope. Okay.
So you hear that, Jim?
Can I join?
Yeah. You had your-
I don't live in Old Farm, but speaker on the table a little bit.
She's Field guides too.
Um,
I look at,
any other business that I've forgotten about?
no, sir.
Excellent.
So Ross, at this point, let's end the live streaming and recording. The board can hang out for a little bit longer.